Good afternoon. It's Saturday afternoon. It is Saturday I can't remember. Saturday, December the 12th. How exciting. Halfway through December. And 2 weeks yesterday will be Christmas Day. Yay. So we're down in the girls' house at the bottom of the garden with all of our toys. We have got Penguin, we've got Father Christmas, we have got Gingerbread Man, we have got reindeer, I guess. We've got Molly's hot chocolate with a couple of. It's got a cute little pocket on the front of it for biscuits, which I thought was perfect for little Oreos. Daddy has got his normal hot chocolate in a Kevin the Carrot mug, and joining us especially today because Daddy's got a Kevin the Carrot mug. Look that way.
It's huge.
We've got Kevin the Carrot. He is quite big. You were,
Yeah, I was thinking of maybe putting him like up there.
Yeah, he is big. Okay, show. So when I arrived back with him last Sunday, and I put him by the front door. What was your face? Yeah, it was kind of like, and Mummy was just like, what are we going to do with that, Tim? Yeah. Don't know quite what we're going to do with Kevin after Christmas, but yeah, he's big. He's very big. Right. So story wise, what have we got today? Only 2 stories today. One big, one little. The little is our good friend Tom Fletcher from McFly, who's written some wonderful books: Christmasaurus and the Winter Witch. His new book, The Danger Gang. And he's done lots of there's and something in your book. There's an alien in your book, there's a monster in your book, there's a something else in your book. I can't remember what it is. But there's an elf in your book. Tom Fletcher's still kind of we've met Tom Fletcher, haven't we? Yeah, we met Tom Fletcher. And the other story we've got, so that's a fairly short one, a little bit longer one today. We had this book last week, Snow in the Garden. And we had the first story in that, so we're going to have the other story of that one, which is called The Snow Lady. Is it called The Snow Lady?
Yeah,
Does that sound right? I think it's called The Snow Lady. Could be wrong. It is called The Snow Lady. So I think we will start with that one. I think. But of course, next weekend, we're doing all the Christmas. It's the night before Christmas and the night before Christmas and the night after, all of those ones, because it's properly Christmas. And we're having the Grinch next week as well.
The Grinch. Oh,
The
okay.
Grinch.
Do we have that book?
We do. We do. Otherwise, I would just have to make it up. Right. The Snow Lady. Sam's real name was Samantha, but everyone... Sorry, tilt it that way. That'll be easier. Sam's real name was Samantha, but everyone called her Sam. Sam's dog was called Micawber, but everyone called him Mick. Sam and Mick were very fond of each other. In the mornings when Sam went to school and Sam's mum and dad and her big sister Liz went to work, Mick stayed at home to guard the house. When school was over, Sam walked home with her friend Barney and his dad. As soon as Mick heard Sam's footsteps, he put his front paws on the windowsill and barked a joyful welcome. Sam longed to put him on his lead right away and run off up Trotter Street, with Mick pulling her along and sniffing excitedly at gates and lampposts. But Mum was still at work, and as usual, she'd arranged for Mrs. Dean next door to keep an eye on Sam until everyone else came home. Mrs. Dean lived alone with her cat Fluff. Her house was very clean and tidy. The lace curtains were snowy white and the floor was polished like a skating rink. Mrs. Dean welcomed Sam with a glass of milk and 2 plain biscuits. Sam balanced them on her lap and tried not to drop crumbs while she and Fluff and Mrs. Dean sat side by side on Mrs. Dean's beautiful blue sofa and watched television. Mick was never allowed into Mrs. Dean's house. He and Fluff got on very badly whenever they met. Sam could hear him howling mournfully next door. "Whatever has got into that dog?" said Mrs. Dean. She opened her front door and shushed at Mick from the doorstep, but he didn't take any notice. He just went on howling. Sam and Mick were both glad when they heard Mum's key in the lock. Mrs. Dean's garden was just as neat and tidy as her house. If Mick got in there and started to dig holes searching for imaginary rabbits or picked a fight with Fluff, Mrs. Dean became very cross. Mrs. Dean didn't even like Mick to be in the street. Sam and Barney and the other children often played in Trotter Street after school, and Mick always joined in. But before long, Mrs. Dean's face would appear at her window, and she would tap sharply on the pane, then put out her head and say to Sam, "That dog really ought to be chained up. My poor little Fluff is so frightened she daren't come out." Or she would say, "Would you mind asking your friends not to sit on my wall?" Or, "A little less noise, dear, please." And that was the end of their game. But now the weather was getting too cold to play outdoors. One night the water from a leaking drain froze on the pavement outside Sam's house, turning it into a sheet of ice. The Trotter Street children had a great time running up to it as fast as possible and seeing how far they could slide. They hung on to one another and all slid together in a chain. Whee! It was just like the Winter Olympics. Mick ran alongside, skidding and barking. Soon Mrs. Dean popped out wearing a shawl over her shoulders. "That's very dangerous," she said. "You might easily break your arms or legs. Do stop at once." Everyone stopped sliding except Barney. He was at the end of the chain and just kept going. He cannoned into Harvey. Harvey cannoned into Billy, who fell against May, who slipped over, pulling Sam and the others with her. There was a terrific pile-up. "I'm glad Mrs. Dean doesn't live next door to us," Barney said later, when he and Sam were drying their feet. "She's always interfering and she hardly ever smiles. She's an old meanie. Mean Mrs. Dean, I call her." It was getting near to Christmas. People in Trotter Street were buying Christmas trees and putting up decorations. Mrs. Dean hung a wreath of plastic holly tied with red ribbons on her door. Everyone admired it except Mick, who took a savage dislike to it. He barked fiercely every time he caught sight of it. Sam had a terrible time trying to drag him past Mrs. Dean's house whenever they went for a walk. One day, Mick got out on his own and worried the ribbon until he got one end of it between his teeth. Then he pulled the whole thing down and ran off up Trotter Street with the wreath round his neck and the ribbons streaming out behind. Mrs. Dean was very cross indeed. After that, Mick was in bad disgrace. Sam was pleased when she heard Mrs. Dean telling Mum that she was planning to spend Christmas with her married son. And sure enough, on the very first day before Christmas Eve, Sam saw her setting out in a taxi, taking Fluff in a cat basket and a great many parcels. "Hurrah!" thought Sam. Then something even better happened. Out of a slate grey sky, it began to snow. Big flakes whirled down, covering the pavements and parked cars of Trotter Street with a soft white blanket. Next morning, the sun came out and so did Sam and Barney. They decided to build a snowman where the snow lay thickest, between Sam's front gate and Mrs. Dean's. First they piled the snow into a big heap. Mick watched with interest. Soon there was something which looked like a person with a round head, stick arms and stones for eyes, nose and mouth. "Let's give him a top hat and a scarf and a pipe," said Barney. "Then he'll be a real snowman." Sam and Barney went indoors. Mum was busy, but she said they could pick out some clothes from the top of the cupboard if they liked. But Sam and Barney could not find any of the things they wanted. Only a lot of hats and dresses belonging to Mum and Liz. "It'll just have to be a snow lady," Sam decided. So they dressed the snow lady in a hat and coat, put a shawl over her shoulders and hung a handbag on one of her stick arms. She looked very realistic. "I know who she reminds me of," said Barney, and he moved the stones so that her mouth turned down instead of up. He searched in the snow for some more small stones and arranged them where the snow lady's feet would have been. The words stood out clearly: Mrs. Dean. Sam giggled. The snow lady really did look rather like Mrs. Dean, but Barney had not finished. He arranged the D in Dean to make an M, and then the stones read Mrs. Mean. "Lucky she's away," said Sam. "How awful it would be if she could see it." Then they heard Mum calling and ran indoors, taking Mick with them. The rest of the day was so busy and exciting that Sam and Barney forgot all about the snow lady. Late that night, long after Barney had wished them all a happy Christmas and gone home to hang up his stocking, Sam was too excited to sleep. She got up, drew the curtains back a little and looked out at the street. Everything looked white and Christmassy, but big black clouds were scuddling across the moon, and when she caught sight of the Snow Lady still standing there all alone, it gave her quite a shock. Then Sam saw a taxi draw up, and out stepped Mrs. Dean. The driver unloaded Fluff and the luggage and helped her into the house. Mrs. Dean walked right past the Snow Lady without even glancing at her. But she'll see her tomorrow when it's light, thought Sam. It'll hurt her feelings, and on Christmas Day too. Sam decided she must go out at once and kick away the stones which spelt out the Snow Lady's name. She would take off the clothes too. It was terribly important. Sam crept quietly downstairs and began to put on her coat over her pyjamas. But Mick heard her and came running, barking and making a great fuss. Mum put her head round the living room door. "Whatever are you doing, Sam? You can't go out at this time of night." And she packed Sam firmly off upstairs. "The sooner you're asleep, the sooner Christmas will be here," she said, kissing her good night. Still, Sam could not get to sleep. She felt too awful about Mrs. Dean. When she did fall asleep, her dreams were full of excited visions of Mick, Fluff and the Snow Lady, and lots of Christmas parcels, all tied up with yards and yards of red ribbon. Mrs. Dean was inside one of the parcels. She jumped out and they were all running and running. But it was not feet which Sam heard in her sleep, it was rain. And when Sam woke up, it was still dark, Christmas morning. And yes, the stocking at the foot of her bed was full of exciting surprises. But Sam did not put on her light yet. Instead, she ran to the window. She could hardly see outside because of rivulets of water were streaming down the pane. Below in the street, Sam could see the Snow Lady. She seemed to have slumped back against the gatepost, and all around her lay a puddle of water. Then a great warm hope leapt up inside Sam. She skipped back into bed and began to open her stocking. And as soon as Christmas Day had begun properly and all the family had kissed each other and given their presents, Sam slipped out of the front door. It had stopped raining. The Snow Lady had collapsed altogether and her hat had fallen over her face and her clothes were limp and dripping. She kicked the stones and scattered them about, and then she picked up the Snow Lady's clothes and pushed them into the dustbin. She was only just in time. Mrs. Dean's front door opened and out came Mrs. Dean dressed for church. Mum hurried hurried to their doorstep and called out, "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Dean! I didn't know you'd come back." "And Merry Christmas to you all, Mrs. Robinson. My son and his wife have flu, and couldn't have me to stay after all," said Mrs. Dean. "Then of course you must come and have Christmas dinner with us," Mum said at once. "Why, thank you, that's very kind," said Mrs. Dean, and her face melted. Sam stood right in front of what was left of the Snow Lady. The name which had stood out so clearly in the snow was now just a tumble of stones lying in a pool of water. Sam shuffled them about with her feet just in case. "I expect you wish the snow had lasted longer," Mrs. Dean said to Sam. "Oh no, I don't mind a bit really," said Sam, and she gave Mrs. Dean one of her biggest, most Christmassy smiles. I guess that's the last bit. Yes. And then we got a recipe for gingerbread snowmen, how to make Christmas crackers, and a poem. I like this book. It's a nice book. Nice book. Right. Do you need a cookie?
Okay.
I might have a bite of my biscuit too. Before we have our final one, you've had a busy morning. You've been for a walk with some friends, haven't you, this morning? Yeah. Well, what else did you do? Did you just go for? You had a Costa, didn't you?
Mhm.
Yeah. And what did you have to drink at Costa? Oh, sorry. I've just let you have a mouthful of food, and then I'll ask you a question.
A strawberry and cream frosting.
Oh, nice. Is that a cold one? Or that's a cold one. Yeah. Yum. And anything to eat? Oh, a sausage bap, didn't you? Yes, I heard. You had a sausage bap. Yum. That sounds rather yummy. I would rather like a sausage bap. So it's just one more story. Can you just have a quick slurp of hot chocolate? I put a bit of milk in it. So is it
Yes.
is it okay to drink? Okay. Right. So one more story. Bit of a shorter one today. Tomorrow's one is we're just doing one story. It's a long one. So we're just doing one story tomorrow.
This
It's a
video
lovely
is
one,
quite-
but it's a
This video is quite short because it's only 14 minutes. at the
yeah.
moment,
So I
so-
think this is only probably a couple of minutes long. Right. So this, as I say, is Tom Fletcher. There's an elf in your book. Very cute looking elf. Oh look, there's an elf in your book. Elf's here to do the nice list test with you. You need to be on the nice list if you want Santa to bring you Christmas presents. Think we're on the nice list? Let's see. To pass the test, Elf will ask you to do some nice things, but watch out, elves can be a bit cheeky. Don't be tricked into being naughty, okay? When you're ready to take the test, turn the page. Good luck. Right. Let's see what we've got to do. See if we can pass the test. Let's start with a nice easy one. Touch your nose. Okay, we're going to touch our nose. To see if you pass the test, turn the page. Good job. You passed the first test. Now, blow a Christmas kiss. Do you think you passed? What a lovely Christmas kiss. You passed the second test. What's next? Sing a cheery Christmas song. Yes, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, there. Let's see if you've passed. Beautiful singing. You passed the third test. Now, say, I'm a bauble bottom sprout face. I'm a bauble bottom sprout face. Wait a second, this sounds like a naughty trick. I think Elf is testing you. Don't say I'm a bauble bottom sprout face and turn the page.
You said it, I didn't.
You didn't, very good. Yeah. And turn the page. Phew, it was a trick. Thank goodness you didn't say it. So you're okay, I'm not. You passed the fourth test. Is the nice list test going well so far, Elf? Yes, it is. Awesome. Keep it up. Name Santa's most famous reindeer.
Rudolph.
Rudolph, correct. You passed the fifth test. You're great at this. Now, do your loudest, stinkiest sprout burp. Ooh, stop, stop, stop. Do you think this is another cheeky elf trick? It was another trick. Well spotted. Keep this up.
You didn't
Keep
do
this
that
up
one.
and you'll be on the nice list in no time. What's next, Elf? Right, let's have a look. Now for the final test, make Elf laugh. Well, to make Elf laugh, you'll have to tell a joke. Have a look in the Christmas joke book. Turn the page to open it. There's a Christmas joke in your book. Let us see what's there. What do elves do in the toilet? This sounds like another naughty one. Ah, it ties in with what you sang.
Wait,
What did you sing?
jingle bells?
Mm.
So-
So what do elves do in the toilet? Jingle
yeah.
smells. Jingle smells. Jingle smells. Oh no! The joke was a cheeky elf trick to make you say something naughty. Does this mean you failed the test? Well, it was only me that said it, so I think you're okay. Surely you can't be on the nice list if you've done something naughty. It looks as though Elf feels bad for tricking you, but rules are rules. Hang on just a second. The test was to make Elf laugh, and you did, so you passed the nice list test. Well done. You are officially on the nice list. But look, what's this? Wow, it's your official nice list certificate. Make sure you leave this book out on Christmas Eve. Santa will want to check it. Until then, Merry Christmas, stay nice, bye Elf. So, oh, that was the other one. There's a monster. I knew he did a monster in your book, an alien in your book. He's also done a dragon in your book.
I don't know alien.
And, well, I think we've also got, there's obviously been another one since then, because we've got Witch, I think. I think we got that for Halloween. Right, shall we say goodbye to people? We'll have our hot chocolates. We will be back tomorrow with, it's, I can't remember the actual title. It's something like Where Snow Angels Go. It's got Snow Angels in the title anyway, but it's a long one. It's a little bit longer than the Snow in the Garden. So we'll just have that one tomorrow, and next week is it's the weekend before Christmas. So we'll have all of the night before Christmas, the night before Christmas, and the night after Christmas, and the Grinch. I think are the ones for next weekend. But as I say, we'll be back tomorrow for Snow Angels, and I think we're going to have Christmas films tonight. Christmas films, and get into our onesies, and because I've got a new onesie. Got a onesie. And when Daddy fetched young Kevin here, got us all Kevin the Carrot pajamas as well. So we could do Kevin the Carrot pajamas or onesies. We've got our choice. Right. So let me flip that round so you can say goodbye. Right. So hang on. So a goodbye from Kevin, a goodbye from Molly,
Bye.
and a goodbye from me. See you tomorrow.